Hey everybody, my name is Raymond Morin. I'm the shop manager here at Acoustic Music Works in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Today I've come to have a pretty serious deep dive into the slope shoulder dreadnought slash jumbo category of guitars. It's January 2025. We find ourselves with a kind of unprecedented variety of great jumbos in the shop right now. So I thought this would be a really cool time to answer a lot of questions about how the brands compare, the differences you might expect to hear, and which ones stick to the classic Gibson original vibe and which ones depart from it a little bit, have other tonal signatures. What we're going to do is we're going to do all of the audio first. I know some people say stop talking, start playing. That's their favorite way to view these kind of videos. So that stuff will be first, and my plan is for the YouTube clip to have markers to where you can skip around to the different instruments and compare them as you wish. But the rules are very simple. Everything that we're playing is a mahogany back and sides guitar with a spruce top. Some of them are Adirondack, a couple of them are Sitka, some of them are torrefied, some of them aren't. Every guitar is based on either a J45, J35, or J50 platform. That is, they're all short scale slope shoulder dreadnoughts, no rosewood, no long scale. So it's kind of a fair fight in a lot of ways, but it's not a fight. They're all great guitars and they all have their own personalities. I'll stop talking, we'll do the audio, and then after the audio, there'll be an extended version with commentary. I'll give you a little background on every individual guitar and or the builder, kind of give you my feelings on it if you're interested, but that'll be coming later. So here's the format. It's very, very simple. I played a G, a C, and a D, strummed sustained chords on every guitar. I played the same progression, simple finger picking, same progression, simple strumming, short, sweet, not artistic. I personally changed the strings on every single guitar to a light gauge D'Addario XS. So every single guitar has brand new strings, that is strings that have stretched out but have no additional play time after that. Brand new, same strings, same stringing, winding style, done by me before undertaking this video. Everything was recorded from the exact same position. Audio-Technica condenser microphone pointed at the body fret about a foot away into a Neve-style solid-state preamp, no EQ, no compression. you're still watching, thanks for hanging out. This is the part where I promised I would give a little bit of commentary on every guitar that was featured in here, and I'm going to actually do it in the same order that you heard them in the video. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's how I'm keeping track of all of these. The first guitar, I guess we're considering the baseline or kind of gold standard. It's a late 30s or possibly 1940 Gibson owned by a good friend of mine named Ernie Hawkins. It's kind of got everything. It's got the dryness, it's got the thump, it's got the volume and quick response, all that stuff. Just an awesome guitar. It's not in crazy nice condition. You see it's got some really serious body cracks that have all been addressed. You know, I've done some work on this guitar. New saddle, new tuners, I think. The finish is completely worn away as if a speed neck had been put on it, which is pretty great, actually. It feels really good. And the neck is completely asymmetrical. It's a V that is kind of flat on one side and kind of round on the other side. So unique piece, really great. This had 3 tone bars at one time. Somebody took out one of them, so now it's got 2 tone bars, and that's why it has very much its own sound and its own personality. Guitar number 2 in this video is one of my personal guitars. This was built by Kevin Kopp, Bozeman, Montana. My favorite guitar builder, essentially, my favorite small shop. And this was a Prototyp, has a Prototyp label on it. And going by Kevin's serial number, this is the 3rd guitar that he made after leaving the Gibson Custom Shop. He made a batch of 4, kind of, as I understand it, to decide if he was going to keep building guitars or hang out a shingle as a repairman. Wasn't sure what he was going to do. Part of that very first batch, and it's a beautiful guitar. I've called it Thumper. You'll see this in a lot of my ragtime videos and stuff that I play. I couldn't be happier to own it, and I can't imagine being without it. Sticking with Kevin Kopp, this is a brilliant 2016 K50. For all intents and purposes, it's the same basic format as his K35 and things like that. Just kind of has a slightly different aesthetic to it. This one has a torrefied Adirondack top, and compared to the guitar that I was just telling you about, my personal K35, this guitar is much louder, has much more muscle. It really is the, on steroids version of the Gibson sound. Just wonderful in every way and an absolute killer. Getting into Collings now. Collings has had several iterations of the slope shoulder dread. They call it a CJ, Collings Jumbo. Originally, it was spec'd as a long scale guitar, more like the Gibson Advanced Jumbo. And then over the years, they had inspiration and call from their pretty rabid fan base about doing something that was more in the Gibson direction. So they've developed a few different ones over the years. This is the latest incarnation. This is called the CJ45T. Now the T stands for traditional, and the way that this evolved was before the traditional line was even a thing, they did the CJ35, which was at the time the absolute most Gibson-esque slope D that they ever made. Ramped bracing instead of scalloped, had no tongue brace, or an abbreviated tongue brace, Wenge parts to kind of mimic the lightness of rosewood and to some extent the color. And that guitar had very, very much the Gibson vibe compared to the Collings that had come before. This guitar being a traditional model, they took the whole concept even further in that the bridge plate is smaller, the finish is thinner, the neck is beefier. In Collings guitars particularly, a beefier neck seems to translate into more muscular sound. It's still all Collings in that it's highly articulate, fit and finish is impeccable, the sunburst is undeniably great. I think they've gotten closer with this model, or at least as close as they've ever gotten to a Gibson vibe with the CJ45T. This guitar is the first of 2 modern era Gibsons, that is not vintage Gibsons, that's in the lineup. This is a 2008 J-35 reissue built for Fuller's vintage guitars. Pretty much goes to that spec of the original Adirondack spruce over mahogany, slightly chunkier vintage-inspired neck, and the J-35 kind of logo, pickguard shape, sunburst approach, all those kind of things. This is a cool guitar. It's a good one. It's the heaviest guitar in the lineup, which is interesting. The lineup essentially fluctuated by around a half a pound, with many guitars landing exactly in the 4-pound range, or 4-pound 1 ounce. So this one's the heaviest, but it doesn't seem to be slowing it down very much. Still under 5 pounds, 4.5 pounds, I guess. That's this one. Here we have another personal guitar of mine. This is a 2017 J-35 Vintage. So it's an actual Gibson. It's very fine. It has a torrefied Adirondack spruce top, mahogany back and sides, and all the J-35 stylings to it. This one came into the shop on consignment, and I figured it was a very good backup guitar for my Kopp K35 thumper. So I bought it, and there are some differences between the two. This one is louder, definitely a little more abrasive, a little more muscular, not quite as sweet, but the neck profile and the overall playability is so similar to my Kopp that it made it an easy choice. As you guys know, when a good Gibson comes around, you have to pay attention in the modern era. So of all the guitars I've presented today, this one actually surprised me the most. This is a Huss and Dalton Crossroads DS. You know, very meat and potatoes look to it. Simple lines, very classic looking. Huss and Dalton is a great company, and they're dear friends. We love them here at Acoustic Music Works. They basically never shy away from an adventure. They're never afraid to try new things. They're small in the best way. We get a lot of personal attention from those guys, and you see it in their guitars as well. This one is torrefied Sitka, mahogany, and just did everything I hoped it would do for this demo. It's warm. It's more Gibson-y than I really thought it would be. And just a, wonderful piece, and modest compared to the pricing on the vintage stuff, to be sure. All right, here we have a David Flammang J-35. David's in Green, Iowa. At the top of the game in the single-man shop, Gibson-style builds. And Jorma Kaukonen has a bunch of them. And he's a, trusted authority on these kinds of things. This is actually the lightest weight guitar in the whole lineup. Comes in at, I think, 3 pounds 15 or thereabouts. And you can feel it when you pick it up. But importantly, it just seems to have the vibe, the presence, the thump, all the things that make a great Gibson-style jumbo. Distinctive dark burst on this one. This is a really cool guitar. This is a John Walker Wise River. John Walker was another rock star in the custom shop at Gibson, who went out on his own and has been very successful, very beloved by fans. This is, I guess, aesthetically kind of a mix of a few different Gibsons. It's got some Southern Jumbo vibes. It's got some J-35 vibes. He does a square headstock. It's kind of unmistakable. Does this great shading on the back of the peg head and a kind of shade burst on the mahogany here instead of going just a dark brown stain. Very wonderful guitars. Otherwise, got all the simplicity and kind of meat and potatoes feel that everybody likes from a Gibson-style Slope D. Great tone, great builder. Okay, the last one that we heard in the videos, this is a Fairbanks F35, Dale Fairbanks. Very great reputation, great builder, up there in Vermont working with Iris and Circle Strings. But he built his reputation on these Gibson-style guitars. He takes some really cool spacewalks. He'll do things like the gold sparkle purfling, the Cremona bursts, just think like he'll grab from different parts of the Gibson tradition, and it's always really satisfying. It's one of the best bursts you can get, if you ask me. And if I'm not mistaken, he does almost exclusively ramped, non-scalloped bracing. So that's where he found his voice in interpreting these Gibson guitars. One of my favorite things about Dale Fairbanks is that when Gibson's lawyers came calling, which they always do once these guys start becoming successful and basically eating their lunch, making their designs, is that he changed his headstock shape to be an inverted Gibson headstock shape. So as if to say, you can't say I copied you, actually mine is the opposite. Very punk rock, lovely guitar. I hear Fairbanks guitars as very clean and very pleasing, modern, but not in a shrill way or in a bad way at all. They're very clean, very precision musical tools. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I answered some questions that you might have had about slope D jumbo guitars in the Gibson tradition. We saw a lot of great guitars, and if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to the shop, acousticmusicworks.com, Raymond at Acoustic Music Works, or info at Acoustic Music Works. Steve or I will be happy to answer any of your questions. And some of these guitars are available for sale, some of them aren't. Just have to watch the website. Thanks again.